Unlike The Crown, this is a factual production. No drama here.
Well, there might be drama.
Right,
but,
okay. We also come with you with an apology for last week's pronunciation guide.
Yes.
I was actually listening to that sequence while I was out for a run the other day, just checking that actually it was. Yeah, well, that's why I'm apologising, really, because it wasn't a fantastic.
Are we not being signed up? Are we not being signed up by Hollywood anytime soon?
No one has been on the phone this week.
No.
I've also drawn a little. This is the extent of my notes, by the way, for this podcast. They're very extensive, as you can see. I've drawn a little picture of a Christmas tree, which was a reminder to me that we needed to talk about Christmas because a lot.
I'm not sure the art or the acting. What's worse?
Yeah.
You have to show the Christmas tree to the camera.
If you're listening to this podcast whilst out running, as I did last week, then you won't have to see my picture of a Christmas tree. And if you're watching on YouTube, then I'm not going to show you because it's too embarrassing.
All I can say is it's good that he's told you what it is.
Yes, otherwise you'd have no idea what that thing is. Right, so that's where we're going to start. Robinson's Royal Rundown. There has been a Christmas announcement from the Palace. And lots of other things besides. And we will tell you why we've just got back from clubbing with Charles and Camilla.
We will, yeah. A sentence you probably never expected to say.
Yes.
So this week we heard the Queen's Christmas plans, how she's going to be celebrating Christmas. Very different this year as for most of us because of COVID.
Yep.
We talked about this a lot last week, Kate's 5 big insights. So this is her body of work on the early years. She put out earlier this year the 5 big questions, and we've now got the answers to those questions. And she gave a keynote speech this week. There were some more developments on the Panorama interview. We heard from Lord Hall. Our cameras caught up with him this week.
Indeed.
And there was a Channel 4 documentary with some new revelations, and we saw some new documents. We were, as you say, clubbing today with Charles and Camilla. They were out and about in London, supporting London's night economy as we emerge from the second lockdown here in England. Prince Harry he did a video message for a new environment streaming service called Waterbear this week. A interesting speech that we can talk about.
It's all about raindrops.
All about raindrops. There was a new initiative that was announced this week called it's planting a tree for the Queen's Platinum Jubilee.
Yes.
So,
finished?
It's good. No, one more. Oliver Dowden, the Culture Secretary, has weighed in to the Crown debate.
Yes.
It's just another chance for you to say yes.
You'll have to go back and listen to last week's podcast to know why we're doing this. It was all about how you say yes if you're posh and royal. Don't move your mouth.
Ears. Don't move your mouth and say ears.
Make your lips very taut and say ears. Ears.
I think it sounds good. I think you're being unfairly
Well, given
harsh.
that we've just been with Charles and Camilla, and he's the kind of person who would say, yeah. Then, why don't we start there? Why were we clubbing with Charles and Camilla?
Well, they were out and about today in London. They did 2 engagements. They went to visit a theatre and then a nightclub. And this is all about supporting London's night economy.
Now, there was something quite interesting, I thought, because we went to this club called the 100 Club on Oxford Street, and walking down the sort of stairs into the club, you know, they haven't been used. The whole point of this visit was because nightclubs have been really badly affected. But I couldn't help but wonder how sticky those stairs probably are at the end of a boozy night with alcohol drops on the floor. And yet there was this 70-odd-year couple going down into this dark nightclub, which the whole thing just felt a little strange, didn't it?
I think they were on terrific form, and they seemed really delighted, like all of us, to be back out and about and meeting people. We know for them, they love meeting people.
It's their bread and butter, isn't it?
While it's been great, and we've seen a lot of them on Zoom and on virtual engagements, there is nothing quite like meeting people in person. And
even if you have to have a mask on.
Even if you have to have a mask on.
You can't really hear what they're saying. You know, part of our job when we go on these visits is to try and listen in to see what, to pick up some interesting conversations, to learn things. Quite hard with a mask, isn't it?
It's really tricky. Yeah, it's really tricky. Although we did pick up that the Duchess is a fan of a margarita.
Yes, the Duchess likes a good margarita. Nothing quite like
Nothing
a margarita,
quite like it,
she said. Also, there was a very interesting conversation that they had with the singer of a band, which kind of went like in summary like this: do you watch YouTube? He said no. You should get yourself a YouTube account. He laughed. You like the 3 Degrees, and he went, that was a very long time ago. Camilla likes Rod Stewart.
Rod Stewart,
and the Faces before that.
Yes.
You learn a few things on this on this little visit, but the serious side of it was that nightclubs have had an absolutely terrible time. 1.6 million people work in London's nighttime economy, as it's known, and none of them have had any work for a long time. So this was Charles and Camilla doing their little bit. Should we ever listen to the band? Listen to Emily Capel.
Yes,
you liked her.
she was brilliant. She was really brilliant, and they looked like they were enjoying themselves listening to her.
So here's Emily Capel and Matt Cowley on drums, playing for an audience of 2. Charles and Camilla. They were shown around the venue actually by London's night czar, Amy LeMay, who is well known to many of you, I'm sure. She is the Mayor of London's nighttime czar, in charge of promoting this sector of London's economy, which actually is a lot bigger than many people think, isn't it?
It is, and it, you know, as you say, it's been really badly hit by the effects of COVID. The hospitality and entertainment sectors were closed completely during the first lockdown, and even now the club was saying to us that even though they've been able to open for a few performances between lockdowns and doing a bit of live streaming, the audiences are much, much smaller than they would normally be able to have. I think capacity is normally about 450
That's
there.
Right. They can only now have 50 or something.
Yeah, so exactly. You know, the impact is huge. And Emily was saying to us that it's really, really important that venues like this, it's the oldest grassroots music venue in London, venues like this are protected and looked after so that when we come out of this pandemic, they are still alive and able to still be there.
During the pandemic, people have come to value being together because we haven't had that. And I think that on the other side of this, hopefully, we'll all be able to recognize the value of coming together, seeing live music, the importance that culture plays in all of our lives and bringing people together, in breaking down barriers and building bridges. So just having their Royal Highnesses here today really highlights that, and it's just been such a shot in the arm for us. You know, bring on the vaccine, but also their Royal Highnesses spreading their interest and care to this sector is very, very powerful indeed.
So that was Amy having a chat. I mean, it was great, wasn't it? When they were listening to the music from Emily and Matt, wasn't it, on the drums up there? Charles was tapping his fingers. Camilla was like tapping her toes. They were quite, Emily and Matt, the performers, they performed for many people. They were quite starstruck, weren't they, I thought?
They were.
Yet very natural.
I thought they were brilliant, and brilliant with them, really natural with them. It can, you know, some people really get quite overwhelmed in those situations, as you would, but they were brilliant. But for Emily and Matt, they hadn't been able to perform since March when we went into lockdown. They'd been due to go on a big tour to Dubai, and then the day before that got cancelled, so they weren't able to go. So she hasn't performed on stage since March, so it was a really big deal today. She
and Camilla bonded over a beehive. I think Camilla said that she used to have a beehive on her head, and it's a nightmare to brush out.
Nightmare to brush out, yep.
I mean, as they were going, I just haven't listened to this bit as they were leaving, how Emily, the singer, said to them, "Come back, we'll get you on the guest list." Well, I wonder if they will.
Thank you so much. Have a lovely day. I hope we'll see you again. Yes, you too.
Thank you very much. Debbie gets back again next year.
Yeah, you can come anytime. We'll put you on the guest list.
I might have to put another mask.
So let's go from nightclub to, I'm looking at my very detailed notes here. There's so many places I could go. Let's talk about Christmas, shall we?
Let's talk about Christmas. That's handy because that's next. That's the next sheet on my pile of papers.
I didn't know. I might change it then. Let's talk about raindrops instead.
Oh no.
No. Okay. Christmas. The change of plan for Christmas.
Yep.
The Queen has been at Sandringham for Christmas every year since
1988.
And she was last at Windsor in
1987.
And she moved it to Sandringham because
there was a huge rewiring of Windsor, so it was moved. And then Sandringham means a lot to the Queen, and she traditionally stays at Sandringham every year until the 6th of February, which was the date that her father died in 1952.
It's an odd date that every year I think this, like it's the date of her accession celebration, but also the date of the death of her father, and it must be very strange.
Yeah,
she
and
still marks it. That's
still
what
marks
you
it.
always used to mark it at Sandringham every year until this year because of COVID.
Year. Yeah,
so she's staying at Windsor.
We were told, having considered all the appropriate advice, the Queen and Duke of Edinburgh have decided that this year they will spend Christmas quietly. In Windsor, and we understand that they feel fortunate to have been able to spend Christmases with their family every year, and they understand that their family will have competing demands over the Christmas period.
Competing demands like in-laws and other families. For example, William and Kate might want to go and see the Middletons. If they see the Middletons, then Kate's brother James might be there, or sister.
And we've got
Pippa Middleton.
Pippa, we've got very strict rules here, and even over Christmas they're being relaxed a little bit. You still have to be. It can only be 3 different households, can't it?
So here is an example of how long it has been since the royals were at Windsor Castle for the Christmas break. And the person I'm inviting you to look at here, in order to articulate quite how long it's been, is the little boy in the powder blue frock coat.
I think I'd just call it a coat.
Winter coat.
Yeah, winter
coat. Have a little look, see if you can guess who it is. You probably will. So for those of you watching on YouTube, you would have spotted the little boy was Prince William, who would have been, what was he born, say 4 or 5 then, something like that.
Yeah, he was born.
Yes, looking very smart in his winter. And actually Diana was very fashionable in her yellow and black checkered number.
Yeah, no, it was a long time ago.
That was my fashion advice there.
Yeah.
Queen Mother. The Duke of Edinburgh doesn't look much different, and somebody pointed out to me on Twitter that he was 66 at that point.
Gosh.
Yeah, he's now 99.
99, yeah.
So there we go, 33 years ago.
But
we're doing maths again.
I suppose for the Queen and Duke of Edinburgh, not only are they in very vulnerable age category, 94 and 99, but also they are leading by example. They are, saying that nobody is exempt from these rules.
And nobody can have the kind of Christmas they want this year.
And they hope, like everyone, that things will get back to normal by 2021. Fingers crossed.
Yeah.
But I think they are very much saying we are like everybody else this year, and we're going to have to make sacrifices and not be able to see our families.
Talking of age, you would have seen the news this week that the UK is the first country in the world to have approved the vaccine for coronavirus, the Pfizer vaccine, the one that's got to be kept at -1 million Celsius or whatever it is.
Good news, finally.
But one wonders what will happen to the Queen and the Duke. We don't know. By the way, this isn't coming from any intelligence, but they're in the age group being 94 and 99, where they would be, I think, in the second tier of people who get it, not the very top, but the next one down. But many people are saying that in order to convince people to have a vaccine, it might be very helpful if it were to be known that the Queen herself had taken one, to let everybody know it's safe, for example.
Yeah, normally we don't get to hear about private medical things to do with the royal family, but you never know.
Yeah, we know it's under consideration at the palace whether or not to make that kind of thing public, but it's really, essentially these things are down to the Queen to decide whether or not she wants to share that very personal information. But that was just because we were talking about their age. So Christmas done.
Oh, well, we also found out Charles and Camilla will spend Christmas Day at Highgrove.
But William and Kate won't tell us where they're going for Christmas.
No, although
but one imagines they're going.
One imagines. Possibly Middletons.
Speaking of the royal family now, aren't we? One
imagines. The Camilla does expect to see her side of the family over the festive period.
I don't know how they're going to work that one out.
And
whether she's going to see her family, but they also hope to see the Queen.
Well, they hope to see the Queen and Duke, but that's more likely to be socially distanced, possibly outside. So, but yeah, like every family, they've got competing demands and things to juggle. So, and have to think about how to do that safely. So.
Right, I'm going to talk
from the front.
Sorry, I spoke over you. Say that again.
That's all done. They are clearly leading from
the front.
Yeah.
Some people in their feedback on this podcast say that I talk over you, so I must I must make more of an effort not to do so. Have a listen to a speech made by Prince Harry about the environment, and we are going to discuss the speech afterwards, but I just want you to listen to it first.
Every single raindrop that falls from the sky relieves the parched ground. What if every single one of us was a raindrop? And if every single one of us cared, which we do, because we have to care, because at the end of the day, nature is our life source. but we got to be clever and find a way to be able to uplift and inspire in that education and awareness. But again, as I've said before, and as you guys fully well know, you can't uplift, educate, and inspire unless there is a form of action that follows. And that, I think, is the key, which is why water bear is so important.
So it's all about raindrops. To give you the context, he was speaking to a new streaming service. So think of this like Netflix, but for environment films and programs about the damage we're doing to the planet. It's called Water Bear. Harry was giving an interview to the CEO of Water Bear, and that's where he made these comments, which some people criticise for being woke, whatever woke means. I sometimes struggle myself to know what woke means.
Yeah.
Other people thought, well, you know what, if Prince Charles and Prince William had made a similar kind of comments about the environment, they would have been praised. True or not?
Look, I think the message he's trying to give is undoubtedly a good one. It did take me a few goes at understanding quite what he was getting at. I think it's just not a very succinct point, I don't think.
Right, but we are all raindrops, and collectively we can...
If every raindrop from the sky relieves the parched earth, what if every one of us was a raindrop, and if every single one of us cared? So
yeah. Listen, I put it out there on Twitter, and actually the reason why I did is because there had been a lot of stuff in some of the UK papers about it being too woke or too politically correct. I don't know what the word woke means. I looked it up and it just meant you were actually aware of things around you, like racism and important things like that. However, then I just got... I lose track of how to keep on top of all the notifications, and I wasn't saying it was woke. I was just putting it out there because it had been criticised. Whether or not you agree with that, I think we'll perhaps just have to leave it down to individual person. But there we go. Go watch Water Bear,
and let us know what you think.
Yeah, and the bigger point here is that Water Bear wants to not only to engage people in matters of the environment and the climate change crisis, but also to encourage them to take part in action, to get up and do something about it rather than just consume the information. So that's the point of Water Bear. Look it up. It's free, apparently. Go and subscribe, and then you can tell us what you think. And Prince Harry's whole interview is on there. And actually, he also talks quite importantly about how being a dad changes the way, we are bringing these people up into the world. What if the world is on fire? That's not right. We should be leaving the world a better place than how we found it.
I think, obviously highlighting, he's highlighting a very important cause. I just think there was some, maybe lost in translation slightly, the point he was trying to make. It got a little bit lost, I thought.
Okay. You watch, you decide, and we won't tell you what to think. We will just tell you that it's out there and it is a point of contention on social media, as it always is. Now, The Crown.
We're going to The Crown next.
True or false? We've kind of skirted around The Crown. We've never really spoken about it, maybe, and we keep promising to do a whole episode on it, but stuff keeps happening.
Stuff keeps happening.
However, a government minister here, the culture secretary, the chap who's in charge of the media industry and all the rest of it, has said that maybe Netflix should be doing more to alert people to the fact that The Crown is fiction, not fact. Yeah,
he's expected to write to Netflix, raising his concerns over the fact that people might not be aware that this is in part fiction. And I think the difficulty with The Crown is because it is based around true events, and they have paid such careful attention to detail. The costumes, the way people look. All of that is so carefully done. You did on social media the other day.
Well, funny you should say that. I was about to mention the very thing. Do you want to go and have a look at these pictures? This was on my Twitter feed, or did I put it on Instagram? No, Twitter, I think it was. Or both. Maybe I did it both. Have a look at these now. If you're watching on YouTube, if not, you have to do the long way round, which is go to my Twitter account at ChrisShipITV. Lizzie is...
at LizzieITV.
And our Instagram account is at ITV News Royals. Once we've got that out of the way, we can now show you the pictures if you're watching. So the first one on there is Princess Diana in a jumper with reindeer on it.
Is that a llama?
A llama. So on the left, of course, is the real one. On the right is the crown. Okay, now we go to the Queen. The top is the crown Queen. The bottom is the real Queen. Pretty good though, wouldn't you agree? The next one, Charles and Diana's engagement announcement. On the left, the crown. On the right, the real one. The next one is Margaret Thatcher and Dennis Thatcher, her husband, when they won the election in 1979, going into number 10 Downing Street. At the top is Margaret Thatcher. At the bottom is the brilliant actress that is, or actor, we have to say now, is Gillian Anderson. And that was all I put up, I think. There we go. So is the crown fact or fiction? Someone who's got involved in this debate, not only the government minister, but also Helena Bonham Carter,
who plays Princess Margaret. She said in a podcast this week that she feels very strongly that there's a moral responsibility to say it's not drama documentary, we're making a drama. They're two different entities.
But it's a drama on which certain scenes are based on historical events. That's probably the way to describe it.
But you know, for a lot of the audience, which is a much younger audience, they won't be that familiar with the kind of the story around Charles and Diana, so they may well be watching and thinking, "Well, this is all really what happened." So yeah, it's a difficult one.
So this is what Helena Bonham Carter said about it. She's one of the actors in The Crown, so perhaps we should listen to her thoughts on this very subject.
It is dramatised. I do feel very strongly because I think we have a moral responsibility to say, hang on, guys, this is not his. This isn't. We're not telling it. It's not a drama doc. We're making a drama. So they are two different entities.
And there were a lot of conversations in The Crown behind closed doors, audiences with the Queen. Of course, nobody's privy to an audience with the Queen, and no one's privy to conversations behind closed doors. So of course those are based on fiction.
You know, there was a former Prime Minister back in the 1970s who said the only conversation he has that never leaks is the one he has with the Queen every week. So
and there was a lot of that, you know, you see a lot of the Queen and Margaret Thatcher's conversations during audiences. Of course, those are based on fiction because no one
previously Winston Churchill, previously Anthony Eden, previously Harold Wilson and Harold Macmillan, all the former Prime Ministers. We should do a test. On on the list of Prime Ministers
but it's
covered so far by The Crown.
And I think it obviously gets more and more sensitive the closer we get to the modern day, and that's why this has become such a hot topic.
Very sensitive because most of them are still very much alive. So, shall we do, well, talking of Crown real life, I presume the Crown will have to come on to the Princess Diana interview in its next series, the Martin Bashir interview, which is still a very hot topic of conversation. We had actually, before we came into the studio to record this, we had a statement from the inquiry team itself saying that Lord Dyson, who's leading the inquiry into what happened in the run-up to that interview, wants people to get in touch, basically,
Yeah, so the website for the inquiry is now live and online, and a spokesperson for the investigation said that the investigation has begun its work. Lord Dyson will conduct a thorough, fearless investigation and is determined to get to the truth. The investigation wants to hear from everyone with relevant information that needs to be examined and will take the course Lord Dyson sees fit based on the evidence.
Now, we asked Lord Hall about Lord Dyson. If you're getting confused between all your lords here, Lord Dyson is the former senior judge who's conducting the inquiry. Lord Hall is Tony Hall, who was, at the time of the Panorama interview, the BBC's head of news and current affairs, and has recently just left as the Director General of the BBC, which is pretty much the most senior position within the BBC. So our cameras caught up with him to ask him about his investigation way back in 1996 and how he will assist Lord Dyson with this new independent investigation, and this is what he told us.
So I'm going to take part in this inquiry. I think Lord Dyson is the right way to... he's doing all the right things. I want to take part in that inquiry, and I shall say what I want to say to Lord Dyson.
Do you condone Martin Bashir's use of fake facts?
As I said to you, I investigated at the time. I will take part in the Lord Dyson inquiry, and I look forward to telling him what I think. Thank you very much.
And it was Lord Hall, as we said, who conducted this first investigation into 1996. And we found, because of some documents that have now been released to us by the BBC, what he told a Board of Governors meeting in April 96 about these bank statements. If you're familiar with the story, these are the bank statements. It's claims that Martin Bashir got a graphic designer to forge in order to show Diana's brother Earl Spencer to claim that one of his staff had betrayed them, that he was getting paid by newspapers and perhaps even by the secret services, MI5 and MI6. Anyway, in this BBC internal investigation way back in 1996, it appears that Tony Hall said it was the other way around, that the bank statements came from Earl Spencer given
to Martin Bashir. We'd never heard that before, so that was... there was a story in one of the papers at the weekend that Earl Spencer was furious. Which,
yes.
Yes.
So here's a couple of quotes from that board meeting in 1996. Earl Spencer showed him, that's Martin Bashir, some documents, including this man's bank statement. The Lord Hall went on to say that Mr. Bashir made them into a graphic using the bank statement that Spencer had given him, which, as we just said, is the opposite of what's been claimed. And Lord Hall also wrote at the time, I've talked to Martin at length about his reasons for compiling that graphic. He has none other than he wasn't thinking. So this was the inquiry which was believed to have cleared Martin Bashir of any wrongdoing. Earl Spencer now is making the claim that actually there's a lot more to investigate here that the BBC didn't investigate at the time. And
there was, in the Channel 4 documentary this week, they had an interview with Diana's former private secretary, Patrick Jeffson, and he is allegedly one of the people that Martin Bashir smeared in an attempt to get to Princess Diana. And I thought the really poignant thing he said in that documentary was that it upsets him more than he can say that the princess died thinking that he had betrayed her.
Somebody had got to her with lies about me. It upsets me more than I can say that quite possibly the princess died thinking that I had betrayed her.
So a lot more to run on this one. The investigation goes on, and as you heard Lord Hall say to our cameras, he will take part in it fully. Last week we touched on the Duchess of Cambridge's, I was going to say Cornwall then, but wrong Duchess of Cambridge's big speech that she made. We had a little taster of it last week in the podcast. However, we got the full-on thing, the full reports into early years, the subject that's very close to Kate's heart. So we thought we would just touch on it again now that we've got the full details of it and some of the insights that they discovered from doing this big survey across the UK. Yeah, there were the 5 big questions came back, delivered some insights, and I've just picked out a few of the interesting ones here. That 98% of people believe nurture is essential to a lifelong outcome for a child, but just 1 in 4 recognise the specific importance of the first 5 years of a child's life, and that's the early years that Kate is specifically looking at, is pregnancy through to age 5. So only 1 in 4 recognise the importance of those early years. 70% of parents feel judged by others, and parental loneliness has dramatically increased during the pandemic from 38% before to 63% now, as parents feel cut off from friends and family. Because they continued this research during lockdown. So they did a bulk of it before lockdown and then some during, and that was one of their findings, that it is a particular problem. And Kate gave what they kind of build a keynote speech, isn't it? You know, one of the speeches that doesn't come along that often, and when they do, it's very important to them. So this is what Kate said.
The early years are therefore not simply just about how we raise our children. They are, in fact, about how we raise the next generation of adults. We must do all we can to tackle these issues. The early years should be on par with the other great social challenges and opportunities of our time.
So on a par, she said, with the other great social challenges of our time.
Yeah, so she talked about how she has seen through her early years work and other work that she's done since joining the royal family, that experiences such as homelessness, addiction and poor mental health are often grounded in childhood. So the importance of having a good childhood is not only about the childhood experiences, but it's about how people then go forward into adulthood.
Not just bringing up children, we're bringing up the next generation of adults.
Exactly.
And I think one of the key things she said was that the first 5 years of life affect the next 50 years of life.
Yeah.
So that's the big take out from that.
And she talked a lot about why this issue was so important to her. She actually did a question and answer session over the weekend, which we'll play you. And she talks about how people think that the reason that she's interested in the early years is because she's got children, but it's actually because it is an important issue that we should all be involved in, whether we have children or not, because it is so key to development.
How do you manage toddler tantrums in your household, especially with multiple children? Yes, that's a hard one. I'd also like to ask the experts myself.
As a mum of a 2-year-old, tantrums are something I'm very familiar with. When my son has a tantrum, I try to put into words how I think he might be feeling in a slow and calm and gentle way.
Something else which will affect future generations is how much oxygen we have to breathe, and we know what creates oxygen. Trees, or we know what at least stores oxygen.
I was looking at you thinking, I have no idea what you're doing.
Well, actually, there was something in the news this week about the rainforests in Brazil have been destroyed at a greater rate over the past year than at any other time in the last 10 years, which kind of gets you worried about the levels of carbon dioxide in the atmosphere. But kind of related to that is there are two tree planting projects going on at the moment. One is for the Queen's Jubilee, the Platinum
70
years, which is not 2021 but 2022. And also Prince Charles is involved in quite a big project to get the UK to plant trees. So what was it called again? Plant trees for the Jubilee.
Yep, it's going to be known as the Queen's Green Canopy, and people across the UK are going to be encouraged to plant a tree for the Jubilee. And the project will see all counties of the UK being invited to create a network of individual or specimen trees, tree avenues, copses, woodlands, in honour of Her Majesty's 70 years of service to the nation.
Couldn't think of a better thing to do. I will go and definitely plant one. In fact, I planted 2 trees this year.
This kind of reminded me of the Queen's Commonwealth Canopy, which is where forests around the Commonwealth are dedicated towards conservation.
Had that wonderful programme of the Queen and David Attenborough, 2 nonagenarians walking around Buckingham Palace having a sort of chinwag about trees and things and family.
Do you know how many countries in the Commonwealth are participating in the Queen's Commonwealth Canopy?
I think it was quite high. It was in the sort of late 30s, early 40s, was it?
It's currently 45.
Yeah, okay, so that's the majority of
out of 54.
Yeah. We even saw Angelina Jolie, didn't we, plant some trees in Namibia in that film?
In that film?
In the documentary.
Oh, yes. Sorry, I thought you were going to say that we did it in Africa. And I was thinking, no, we didn't, did we?
No, this was in Africa, but before we went there with William and Kate last year. And actually, Prince Charles has been involved in... Yes, what did I say?
William and Kate.
William and Kate, okay. Harry and Meghan. Oops. Prince Charles has also been involved in a tree planting project on another network called the BBC. You've heard of them?
No.
Anyway, we'll play the clip that he gave them. This is on one of their programmes called Country File. Again, this is the reasons why he believes that we should be planting more trees.
I know that so many people during this terribly difficult year have had their appreciation of the trees and other green spaces around them deepened, and therefore it is our duty, given how long that it takes for a tree to mature, to plant trees now for future generations to enjoy, and for the immense benefits, particularly in towns and cities, from their shade in an ever more overheated climate.
So we started on Christmas trees, we ended on actual trees.
Oh, very good. That's why they pay in the big bucks. That was very good.
And the day's down, the podcast is finished. There's no more to talk about this week, is there?
There is not, and we can't throw ahead to next week, but...
No, well, there are things happening next week. Unusually, we know about something happening next week.
It will be good, so tune in next week.
Yes, we will bring you the podcast, presumably from here. We're not anywhere next... No, we don't...
Currently here next week, yeah.
Right. So thank you. Go get your Christmas tree. I got mine yesterday, although it's currently sat in the garden in a bucket of water. Have you got yours yet? No. So I've got my Christmas tree. It's not up. I'm going to do that this weekend. Anyway, the holiday season is here. A vaccine is on its way. This dreadful year that is 2020 is coming to a close, and 2021 cannot be any worse, surely.
Surely.
So, it's a positive note to end on. Thanks for watching. Thanks for bearing with us. And we will make more sense on Royal Matters next week.